Welcome to Shredder Fanfic. Like, subscribe, and hype video. Join members to gain early access to new videos.
The main character, after dying, he gets reborn as Gyomei inside of Avatar The Last Airbender. What will Gyomei do inside of Avatar The Last Airbender with earthbending?
Avatar, What If I Am Gyomei, Humejima. Chapter 1, A Prayer Across Worlds. I was staring at the glowing screen far too late into the night. My headphones hummed with the soft soundtrack of a fanfiction that shouldn't have hooked me so much. It was one of those what-if scenarios, the kind that made no sense but felt perfect anyway. What if Gyomei Humejima had been born in the world of Avatar, the last airbender? The idea was ridiculous. Gyomei wasn't an earthbender, but he didn't need to be. His sheer physical presence, his calm authority, his ability to hear and sense the world. Imagining him dropped into the chaos of bending nations was thrilling. I pictured him standing against the Fire Nation, beads clutched, chains in hand, reciting prayer as he crushed armor like paper. I laughed to myself, shaking my head. Man, if I had that kind of strength, that kind of peace. The words didn't finish. The world exploded into screeching brakes, horn blaring, and the blinding rush of headlights. The impact was instant, unstoppable. My chest caved, my body twisted, pain lancing through every nerve. For a single instant, my brain tried to understand what had happened. Truck. I had stepped into the street without looking. My eyes had been on my phone, reading. And then there was nothing. No sound. No pain. Just silence. I don't know how long the silence lasted. When my mind awoke again, it was not to light. There was no ceiling, no hospital beeping, no muffled voices. Just earth beneath my palms, damp, cool, alive with the scent of moss and soil. I drew in a deep breath. The air was clean, not city clean, not filtered, pure. My lungs stretched with it like they had never truly breathed before. I tried to open my eyes. Nothing came. Darkness. I blinked, but the dark did not move. I pressed my fingers to my face in panic. My eyelids moved, my skin was there, but sight did not return. I can't see. The words came out trembling. My heart hammered. I rubbed my eyes harder. No change. But then, something else. The soil beneath my hands, it wasn't just texture. It was alive with detail. I could feel more than touch. Faint tremors, tiny pulses, like 1,000 whispers layered beneath me. A beetle scurried over roots, and somehow I knew its exact size, the direction of its crawl. I froze. This wasn't blindness. This was something else. I lifted my hand and tapped the ground with my knuckles. The vibration spread outward, then came back to me in perfect clarity. The echo mapped the space around me, trees standing tall, stones scattered, a thin stream trickling not far. I held my breath. This isn't mine. This isn't my body. I touched my chest. A necklace of massive stone beads lay heavy against me. I slid my fingers over them, one after another, perfectly round, smoothed by prayer. Recognition struck me like a hammer. No way. I staggered upright. My limbs were colossal, each movement filled with strength I had never possessed. My body towered heavy, yet the ground steadied me. I flexed my fingers. Every part of me responded with power far beyond human. My throat tightened. I'm Gyomei. I said it out loud, voice trembling, and then I heard it. Not my voice, not the casual, anxious tone I had known all my life, but a deep, resonant sound that seemed to hum from the chest outward, calm and solemn. The voice of a monk, the voice of prayer. I froze. It was real. The weight of the beads, the blindness, the resonance of my body, the strength coiled within each muscle. I wasn't imagining this. I had died and been reborn as Gyomei Humejima. My first instinct was to panic, to scream, to demand answers. But the voice that came from me was not capable of that. Even when fear sparked in my chest, what escaped my lips was heavy, grounded, and steady. The divine has chosen this path for me. I must walk it. The words felt alien, not what I would have said, and yet they calmed me instantly. The panic faded beneath the weight of discipline that was not mine, yet now lived within me. My mind was still mine. My memories were still mine. I knew I had been a normal man once, struck by a truck. I remembered the fan fiction I had been reading. But this body, this soul, spoke with Gyomei's serenity. And I realized, from this moment onward, I was no longer myself. I was him. I pressed my palms together and bowed my head. To be taken from one life and placed into another, I shall not waste the gift. The ground beneath me vibrated suddenly. Small footsteps, 3 sets, children running through the brush. Their laughter rang clear in the air. I stilled. Through the echoes I saw them, small frames darting between trees, 2 boys and a girl chasing one another near the stream. Their voices were strange yet understandable, a language I should not know, and yet I did. One boy gasped when he saw me. "He's Hugh." The girl whispered, "Look at his beads. He's a monk." I inclined my head toward them, pressing my palms together in greeting. My deep voice resonated softly. "Peace be upon you, children. I am but a traveler upon this path. Fear not." They stared. My height, my blindness, my beads, all of it made me alien to them. One whispered nervously, "He's blind." I nodded slowly. My eyes do not see, yet the world still speaks. I hear it clearly. A silence followed. Then the girl stepped closer, braver than the rest. I felt the air shift with her small movement. "You talk strange. Are you from the Earth Kingdom?" "Earth Kingdom." The words rooted me in place. My chest tightened, not with fear, but certainty. I knew now, without doubt, where I stood. I was in the world of the Avatar. Chapter 2, Steps Toward the Village. The girl tugged lightly on the edge of my robe. Her hand was small, her voice hesitant. Our village is close. You should come with us. If you're lost, the elders can help you." I inclined my head, the beads around my neck shifting as I pressed my palms together briefly. My voice, deep and steady, carried no urgency. "If you are certain, I will accept your guidance." The children exchanged glances. I could sense their movements through the air and soil. One boy shuffled his feet nervously. The other spoke with curiosity, his tone lighter. "He really is blind, but he talks so calm, like a monk." The girl spoke again, firmer now that she had taken the lead. "Come on, follow us. Watch your step, the ground is uneven." I stepped forward carefully. Though their warning was earnest, I had already sensed the slope of the ground and the scattered stones along the way. The earth told me every shape, every tremor. My bare soles read the soil as clearly as if I had sight. Still, I allowed them to guide me. It would ease their concern, and there was humility in accepting kindness. The 3 children moved quickly ahead of me, their steps light. I followed at a slower pace, each step measured. My body was immense, and I felt the ground respond to my weight. The beads of my rosary shifted with each movement, the soft stone-on-stone sound steady in rhythm with my breathing. One boy, the livelier of the 2, called back to me. "You're really tall, taller than anyone I've ever seen. Do you eat a lot?" The girl scolded him immediately. "Harrow, don't be rude." I answered without hesitation, my voice even. "My height is the body given to me. It is not earned. What I eat is no more than needed." The boy Harrow let out a small laugh, though not unkind. His friend, quieter, asked carefully, "So, are you from Ba Sing Se?" Ba Sing Se, the great city. The mention of it pressed firmly into my mind. In this world, the Avatar had not yet returned. The Fire Nation's power continued to grow. Ba Sing Se stood, vast and unbroken, but with shadows within its walls. I kept my response simple. "No, I walk where my path leads. This is where my steps brought me." The children seemed puzzled by my words, but they did not press further. Their young voices rose and fell as they whispered to one another, their tones shifting between awe and unease. The forest path curved downward. My senses spread outward as I tapped the ground lightly with the end of my chain. The vibration carried back to me, the slope of the hill, the clustering of bushes, the wooden structures beyond. A village. We emerged from the trees. My perception widened. Wooden houses, their foundations pressed into the soil. Fences, gardens, stone ovens, the faint beating of laundry against water. Chickens moving restlessly in a pen. A dog barking, the sound sharp. The children's voices rang out. "Mom, we're back. We found someone. He's a traveler." Their small feet ran ahead. I walked behind them, each step slow, careful not to disturb the earth more than necessary. My presence drew notice immediately. Conversations halted. Tools struck against wood stopped. I felt the air shift with many eyes turning toward me. A woman hurried forward, her footsteps quick and firm. Her voice, sharp with concern, called out, "What are you children talking about? Who?" She stopped short. The vibrations carried her sudden halt to me clearly. Her breathing caught as she looked up at my towering frame. "Spirits above," she murmured under her breath, then louder, steadying her tone. "Who are you?" I inclined my head deeply, pressing my palms together. My words were even, each one slow. "I am but a wandering monk. My path brought me here. I mean no harm." The woman's unease lessened slightly, though not entirely. She placed her hands on the shoulders of two children, drawing them close. You're blind." I nodded once. "Yes." Her voice softened, but still carried suspicion. "And yet you walked here without aid." "The earth speaks clearly," I answered. "I hear what I must." Around us, more villagers gathered. Their voices whispered among themselves. My height, my beads, my blindness, these things set me apart. Some saw danger, others reverence. An older man approached. His steps were slow, deliberate, each footfall carrying the weight of years. The children fell silent, and even the woman bowed her head slightly as he neared. He spoke with authority, but his tone was measured. "I am Wei, elder of this village, who stands before us." Again I bowed my head, beads shifting. "My name is Gyomei. I seek only to rest and to walk in peace, nothing more." The elder studied me. His silence stretched, the villagers waiting. Then, at last, he spoke. "Your size, your bearing, you are no ordinary traveler, but I see no deceit in you." He turned to the woman. "Give him food and water. Let him rest in the guest house. A monk who walks the earth without sight yet finds his way here, that is no common thing. He may be a blessing." The woman hesitated but obeyed. She guided me toward a small wooden structure at the edge of the village. I walked with calm steps, listening to the murmurs around me. Children whispered in awe. Adults spoke in low, uncertain voices. Inside the guest house, the air was warm with the scent of straw mats and clay walls. The woman placed a bowl in front of me. "Rice and greens," she said shortly. I pressed my palms together, bowing slightly. "Thank you. Your kindness is received." She lingered for a moment, then spoke more softly. "My name is Lin. The children meant no harm bringing you here, but this is a dangerous time. The Fire Nation raids. Soldiers take what they please. We cannot easily trust strangers." Her words carried the weight of truth. I lowered my head. "I understand. I will not bring harm to your home." She left me then, her footsteps fading. I remained seated, the bowl before me. Slowly I ate. Each grain of rice, each leaf of greens was received without haste. Outside, life resumed. The villagers' voices carried through the walls. They spoke of crops, of livestock, of weather. The children's laughter returned, though hushed when near the guest house. I sat in silence, beads resting heavy upon my chest. The strength within my body hummed quietly, restrained. I had been placed here, in this world of bending and war. And now the people of this village had taken me in, uncertain but not hostile. The path forward would unfold step by step. Chapter 3. Hands that carry burden. The night passed quietly in the small guest house. The straw mat was rough beneath me, but my body was not troubled by it. I rose at dawn before the first rooster's crow. The air was cool, carrying the smell of damp soil and wood smoke not yet lit. I pressed my palms together, bowing my head briefly. Then I stepped outside. The ground spoke clearly as always, the layout of the homes, the small garden plots, the movement of villagers beginning their day. A woman was drawing water from the well, her footsteps hurried, her breathing uneven. I approached slowly, stopping a respectful distance away. "Good morning," I said, my voice steady. She startled, her hand tightening on the rope. Oh, good morning. May I assist you?" She hesitated, then gave a short nod. "The buckets are heavy." I stepped forward, sensing the well's placement through the air and soil. My hands grasped the rope firmly. With one pull, I lifted the bucket free, the water sloshing softly. I carried it to the side, setting it down carefully. Her breath caught softly. "You're strong." "Strength is for service," I answered simply. "I will continue if you wish." She nodded quickly. "Yes, please, there are 4 more." I drew each bucket with ease, my movements calm, unhurried. By the time the last bucket was placed aside, the woman was no longer fearful. Her voice softened. "Thank you, my name is May." I inclined my head. "I am Gyomei. Your kindness is received." She gave a small bow before hurrying off with one of the buckets. As I remained near the well, more villagers passed by. At first, they kept their distance, watching. But when May spoke quietly to them, their unease shifted. Soon, another approached, a man with a rough voice. "The fence by the livestock pen is broken. If you have strength to spare, could you help?" "I will," I answered. He led me to the pen. The animals stirred restlessly inside, their hooves tapping the soil. I felt the gap in the fence through the vibrations of wood not aligned. I knelt, my hands steadying the posts. The man passed me new planks. "Hold it straight," he instructed. I obeyed. My grip was firm but controlled, the wood unmoving in my hands as he hammered the nails in place. His strikes were uneven, but he worked with determination. When the fence was secured, he stepped back, wiping his brow. "Didn't even budge in your grip. That would have taken me all morning alone." I inclined my head. Together it was swift. He gave a short laugh, not unkind. "You're a useful monk." Word spread quickly. One by one, villagers came with requests. A man needed help lifting a grindstone back into place. I carried it without strain. A woman struggled to carry a basket of laundry to the stream. I bore it easily upon one arm. Children tugged at my robe, leading me to a roof where tiles had slipped. I climbed carefully, securing the tiles under the guidance of those below. With each task, their voices shifted from suspicion to gratitude. I spoke little, answering only when needed, but I gave all strength they asked for. By midday, I had lifted, carried, repaired, and steadied half the village's burdens. My body did not tire. My breath remained even. I accepted the simple food they offered, rice balls and tea, handed shyly by children who no longer feared me. As I ate slowly, the elder Wei approached. His steps were calm, deliberate, carrying authority. He stood near me, his voice steady. "You have done much already. The people thank you." I bowed my head slightly. To serve others is the path I walk. Wei studied me in silence before speaking again. "You are no ordinary traveler. Few men can lift a grindstone alone. Fewer still can climb a roof without sight. You bring strength where we have little." I remained still. "If there is need, I will continue." "There is always need," he admitted. "The Fire Nation raids. They take food, animals, and sometimes people. We are small, we have no soldiers. But today my people saw a man who could hold a fence post without shaking, who could carry more than 3 men together. That gives them hope." I did not respond with words. I pressed my palms together briefly, acknowledging his statement. Wei placed a hand on my arm lightly. "Eat, rest a little. This evening we will speak again." I inclined my head. "As you wish." He departed. The afternoon passed as the morning had. More tasks. A cart stuck in mud, I pushed it free. A fallen tree blocking the path, I lifted it aside. The villagers' voices grew warmer each time. Children no longer whispered in fear, but laughed openly as they followed me. They asked questions freely now. Why are your beads so big? Can you really not see anything at all? Do you get tired carrying so much? My answers remained steady, my voice even. They remind me to remain calm. No, I see nothing. My body endures. Tiredness will come, but not easily. Their laughter carried without fear. When the sun began to set, the air cooled again. The villagers lit fires, their voices rising in conversation. I returned to the guest house as they instructed. The straw mat awaited me once more, and a bowl of soup was set upon the table. I ate slowly, each movement deliberate. My body needed little, but I accepted what was given. Outside, the village settled into night. The air shifted with the sound of voices quieter now, the laughter of children fading into rest. My hands moved along my beads, one by one, in steady rhythm. I sat in silence, ready for the Elder's call. Chapter 4. Rumors of Soldiers. The night passed without disturbance. I slept lightly, rising before dawn as the first faint stirrings of life reached my ears, the creak of doors opening, the shuffle of footsteps outside, the low cluck of hens. I stepped out from the guest house, the earth cool beneath my feet, the morning air damp with dew. I carried water again from the well for May, then repaired a broken wooden beam under Lin's direction. The children followed me in laughter, their voices bright as they darted between tasks, offering tools or shouting encouragement when I lifted heavy burdens with ease. Their joy was simple. It steadied the hearts of their elders. By midday, I was at the livestock pen again, repairing another section of fencing with 2 farmers. The ground trembled faintly under heavier steps, more than the villagers could make. My senses spread outward. At least 4 strangers approached from the road, the gait uneven from long travel. The 2 farmers paused in their work as the travellers came into view. More strangers, one muttered. The footsteps slowed at the village edge. Voices exchanged quiet words. The elder Wei soon approached, his presence measured, his cane striking the ground with steady rhythm. "Travelers," he greeted, "what brings you here?" One of the newcomers, a man with a tired voice, answered, "Rest, food if you'll spare it. We've been walking for days." Their bodies carried exhaustion, the drag of worn sandals, the strain of empty stomachs. The villagers, though wary, did not turn them away. Lin hurried to fetch food, others brought water. The strangers were led to the square where mats were laid. I finished the beam I held, pressing it firmly into place before joining quietly. The travellers spoke between quick bites of rice and soup. Their words were rushed, heavy with tension. "They're moving closer," one man said, his tone low. "The Fire Nation." The villagers nearby froze at his words. Wei's voice remained steady. "Where?" The man swallowed before speaking again. "South. We passed burned homes. Soldiers were marching east toward the river." Another traveler added quickly, "They didn't see us, but we saw their banners. At least a dozen soldiers, maybe more. They had firebenders with them." A sharp breath came from Lin, fear pressing her voice. "So near." The man gave a short nod. "Yes, it won't be long before they reach smaller villages like this." Silence weighed over the square. Children clung to their mothers' robes. Men exchanged uneasy looks. The elder Wei did not let his tone falter. "We thank you for the warning. You may rest here before you continue." The travelers bowed their heads in gratitude, eating quickly, as if afraid time itself would betray them. I remained still, listening to the tremor in their voices. The Fire Nation's advance was steady. These villages were unguarded, without walls or soldiers. When the soldiers came, they would take food, animals, perhaps worse. Wei turned his steps toward me. He stopped close, his voice lower, for me alone. "You have heard," he said. "Yes." He exhaled softly. The people are afraid. We cannot fight firebenders. But today they saw you carry burdens none of us could. They saw strength they had never seen. I pressed my palms together. If danger comes, I will stand. Wei gave a small nod, his tone heavy with relief. That is all I needed to know. He left me then, moving back among the villagers, steadying their spirits with calm words. The afternoon passed with unease in the air. The laughter of children was quieter. The work continued, but voices dropped to whispers, and eyes turned often toward the road. The travellers rested in the guest house near mine, murmuring quietly among themselves. I remained near the center of the village. The children still hovered near me, their fear weaker when close. Harrow, bold as always, spoke first. Will the soldiers come here? I lowered my head slightly. They may. His friend Sella spoke with worry. They'll take everything. They always do. The girl with them, softer of voice, asked timidly, Can you stop them? I answered slowly, steady. If they come, I will protect you. The children looked at one another. Their fear lessened, not gone but quieted. They remained near me, comforted by my calm. Evening fell. Fires were lit. The villagers gathered together, speaking in hushed tones. I ate what was given, a simple bowl of rice and broth. The elder Wei spoke briefly, urging calm, telling the people to keep food stored but hidden animals close. His voice did not rise, but carried steady weight. When darkness spread, I sat again in the guest house, beads in hand. The travellers spoke faintly from the next house. Their words carried enough for me to hear. They'll burn everything, one muttered. We should keep moving. Another replied, tired, and walk into them. Better to stay hidden here, at least for a night. Their fear was real, grounded in the cruelty they had seen. I remained still, listening, each bead passing through my fingers with slow rhythm. The next morning, the travellers departed early, leaving thanks behind. The villagers watched them go with uneasy silence. The fear had not left. It clung to every voice, every movement. So I worked again. I lifted heavy baskets, carried timber, repaired broken walls. My presence steadied them. When the men faltered in their tasks, I carried the weight alone. When the women's voices shook with fear, I responded only with calm acceptance. When the children asked again if I could protect them, my answer never changed. If danger comes, I will stand. The elder Wei approached me by midday, his cane striking the earth with deliberate rhythm. He stopped near me as I carried a stack of wood. They are less afraid when you work among them, he said plainly. I nodded. Fear lessens when burdens are shared. Wei gave a short hum of agreement. Still, we must prepare. If the Fire Nation moves near, we will have no choice but to face them. We have no soldiers, only farmers and children. His voice carried no plea, only truth. I lowered the wood carefully to the ground. Then I will remain. Wei exhaled, steady. That is more than I could ask. He left me then. I returned to the labor, the villagers watching with steadier eyes. As the sun lowered again, the fear had not gone, but it no longer ruled them entirely. They spoke more, laughed more, and ate with less silence. They had seen soldiers burn villages, but now they saw me lift what none of them could lift, carry what none could carry. That was enough to give them strength to face another day. Chapter 5. A Messenger's Plea. The morning began as it had the days before. I rose before the sun, beads in hand, moving quietly from the guest house to the well. The ground was damp with dew, cool beneath my feet. The roosters crowed faintly. May was already there, pulling at the rope with weary arms. Good morning, I said. She jumped slightly, then relaxed. You're early again. I thought I would beat you to the well today. I reached for the rope. Allow me. Together, we drew the water. My strength made the task swift, and she gave a small laugh. You make it look too easy. The rest of us will grow lazy with you here. Her tone was lighter than before. Fear had not left her, but it no longer weighed every word. I bowed my head slightly, returning the buckets to her with care. The village was stirring. Men gathered tools, women set to cooking, children began their play. I moved between tasks, carrying timber, shifting stones, lifting loads that slowed others. The thanks came quickly now, without hesitation. It was near midday when the change came. The ground trembled with rapid steps. One man, alone, running hard from the southern road. His sandals slapped the dirt unevenly, his breath ragged, voice rising before he reached the square. "Elder Way," he shouted. "Elder Way." The villagers froze, voices dying. Way appeared quickly, cane tapping against the ground as he moved forward. His voice was firm, steady. "Who comes to us?" The runner stumbled into the square, dropping to his knees, gasping for air. His body was thin, his clothes torn by branches, sweat dripping down his face. He pressed his forehead to the dirt. "Please help us," he said between breaths. Wei raised his voice so all could hear. "Speak. What has happened?" The man's words tumbled out in a rush. "The Fire Nation came. They burned fields, took animals, destroyed our homes. Many fled, but some were taken. We have nothing left. We came north seeking aid. Please, Elder, anything." A cry rose from the villagers gathered. Some muttered prayers, others cursed under their breath. Children clung to their parents' robes, fear returning to their voices. Wei's tone remained steady but heavy. "How far?" "2 days south," the man answered quickly. "Near the river crossing." Wei closed his eyes briefly, leaning on his cane. Around him, voices rose, villagers whispering of fire, of soldiers, of fear. The runner raised his head, eyes desperate. "Please, Elder, we have nowhere else to turn. You must send help." The silence grew heavy. None of the villagers spoke now, only waited. Their village had little. No soldiers, no defenses. They feared even for themselves. I stepped forward. My beads shifted against my chest, the sound carrying clearly. My voice was deep, steady, without haste. "I will go." All eyes turned toward me. The messenger looked up, confusion mixing with hope. Wei raised his head toward me, his voice low but firm. "You would leave here to aid them." "Yes," I said. "If they suffer, I will stand with them." The villagers began whispering again, their voices rising, some in relief, some in doubt. The messenger's voice broke through, trembling with gratitude. "You would come, alone." "I will go," I repeated, my tone unchanging. Wei tapped his cane once against the earth. His voice was heavy but calm. "You have given much already to us. If you go, you may not return. These soldiers are cruel." I inclined my head. "Then I will meet them with what strength I have." The messenger bowed low, forehead to the dirt again. "Thank you, thank you." Wei was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke, his tone resolute. "You are not one of us, Gyomei, but today you stand as more than a guest. If you choose this path, you carry the hope of 2 villages. I will not stop you." I bowed my head slightly. "Your words are heard." The villagers murmured around us, some calling blessings, others urging caution. Children pressed close, pulling at my robe. Harrow's voice broke through, high and worried. "Don't go, they'll kill you." I knelt, lowering myself, so my voice carried clearly to him and the others who clung to me. "If danger comes, I will protect you. That does not end here. It extends to all who suffer." The children's voices quieted. Their fear did not vanish, but they released my robe, watching with wide eyes. Wei turned back to the messenger. "Rest here, eat. You have run far. At dawn he will go with you." The man nodded quickly, still kneeling. "Yes, Elder, thank you." The villagers began to disperse, voices loud with mixed emotions. Some praised, some feared. May pressed a bowl of food into my hands as I returned to the guest house. Her voice was low. "You'll go, won't you?" "Yes." She hesitated. "We will pray for you." I inclined my head. "Your kindness is received." That evening I ate quietly. The messenger slept deeply in the guest house beside mine, his body too exhausted to do more. The villagers prepared food for my journey, rice wrapped in leaves, water carried in skins. They did not ask further questions. They only watched in silence. When night fell, I sat with my beads in hand, listening to the stillness. The wind moved through the trees, the earth settled beneath the weight of homes and lives. Tomorrow I would walk south. The dawn came. The messenger rose with me, his body still weary but steadier after food and rest. Wei met us at the square, his cane tapping against the ground. He raised his voice so all heard. Gyomei will go to aid our neighbors. He does this by his own will. Honor his choice. The villagers bowed their heads. Some murmured blessings, others wept quietly. Children waved small hands. I pressed my palms together, bowing once to them. Then I turned south, steps slow but steady. The messenger walked beside me, his breath quick, his movements lighter than before. The village faded behind us. The road stretched ahead. The earth spoke with each step, telling me of trees, stones, streams, and the faint marks of soldiers' passage. I walked without haste, without fear. The path was set. Chapter 6. Refugees on the road. The morning air was cool as we left the village behind. The messenger walked at my side, his breath quick though he tried to steady it. His sandals slapped the dirt in uneven rhythm, his body still recovering from exhaustion. I moved with calm steps, each one measured. The earth carried every sound back to me. The creak of branches, the whisper of grass brushed by wind, the distant call of birds. We followed the southern road. The soil was marked by deeper grooves than villages, carts would make, the edges sharp. Soldiers' boots had passed here not long before. The messenger noticed it as well, his voice low. They've been this way. I recognized the marks. I inclined my head once in acknowledgement, but gave no further comment. By midday, the road dipped between trees. My senses spread outward through the vibrations. Many footsteps, uneven, weak, not soldiers, refugees. Their movements were slow, dragging. I stopped, raising a hand slightly. The messenger halted beside me, alarm in his voice. What is it? Others come, I said simply. Moments later, they appeared, a group of villagers moving north along the road. Their clothes were torn, their bodies weary. A mother carried a child slumped against her shoulder. An older man leaned heavily on a stick, coughing as he walked. Two younger men dragged a cart half broken, piled with bundles of what little they had saved. The moment they saw us, their pace faltered. Fear laced their voices. Are you soldiers? One of the younger men demanded, his voice strained, his body tense though shaking. The messenger quickly raised his hands. No, we're not Fire Nation. I'm from the northern village. I came south to seek help. The group stopped fully. Their breaths came fast. Relief was faint but not complete. I stepped forward, pressing my palms together, my voice steady and clear. I am Gyomei. I walk to aid those who suffer. You need not fear me. The mother's voice broke through, raw from exhaustion. Please, do you have water? The messenger fumbled quickly at his pack, drawing out one of the skins the villagers had given us. He rushed forward, pressing it into her hands. She drank deeply before giving it to her child, who swallowed weakly. The others crowded closer, eyes desperate. The messenger passed the skin to them, his own voice unsteady. We don't have much, but take what you need. I listened to their breaths, their steps, their faint heartbeats. Their bodies were worn thin. The earth carried the tremors of their weakness clearly to me. I lowered myself to one knee, reaching for the cart the two men struggled with. Allow me. They looked at me uncertainly. It's heavy, the wheel is broken. I grasped the frame firmly. My arms lifted the cart without strain. The weight pressed against me but did not slow me. I held it steady, adjusting the load. Guide me. I will carry this. Their voices faltered in surprise. You'll carry it, alone. Yes. The messenger hurried to their side, urging them. Let him. He is stronger than you know. Reluctantly, they stepped back. I lifted the cart fully, resting its weight across my arms and shoulders. My steps were measured, steady. The earth told me the road ahead clearly. The refugees gasped quietly. One whispered, He's not human. Another answered, voice hushed with awe. He's a monk. We walked together. The mother's child whimpered softly, the sound weak but steady. The older man coughed harshly, leaning heavier on his stick. The group moved slowly, but with the cart no longer dragging them down, their pace was steadier. The messenger spoke with them as we went. What happened to your village? The younger man answered bitterly. Soldiers. They came at dawn, fire everywhere. They drove the animals out, cut down anyone who resisted. We had no soldiers, no walls. We ran. His voice shook. The mother added, tears in her tone. They took others, my brother, my neighbors. I don't know where they are now. The elder's coughing cut through their words. When it eased, he muttered hoarsely, they don't stop. They'll burn until nothing is left. The messenger lowered his head, his tone heavy. Our elder sent me to ask for aid. He promised this man would help. They turned their eyes toward me. I remained silent, carrying the cart, my steps steady. The younger man asked finally, voice almost pleading, can you fight them, truly? I answered simply, my voice calm. If they come, I will stand. No more words came after that. The refugees accepted the answer without question. The sun lowered as we walked, shadows stretching long. The group slowed, their strength fading. We stopped near a clearing by the road. They settled on the ground, their breaths ragged. The mother rocked her child gently, murmuring to him. The elder leaned back against a tree, coughing still. I set the cart down carefully. The men slumped beside it, exhausted. The messenger drew out what food we carried, passing rice balls wrapped in leaves to them. They ate quickly, almost desperately, but left portions for the child and elder. I remained seated, listening to their voices, their movements. The forest spoke quietly around us, insects humming, birds settling. The mother's voice broke the silence. Thank you. Without you, we would not have made it this far. I bowed my head slightly. Your strength carried you here. I only lightened the burden. The elder let out a rough laugh, quickly overtaken by coughing. If you weren't here, the burden would have crushed us. Night came slowly. The group settled into uneasy sleep. The messenger lay near me, his breath slow but restless. I remained seated, beads in hand, listening to the forest and the faint tremors of their hearts as they rested. Morning broke. The refugees stirred weakly, their movements slow. The child whimpered for food, soothed only when his mother gave him a small portion of rice. The men stretched stiff limbs, wincing. The elder leaned heavily on his stick, his body shaking. We rose and continued south. I lifted the cart again. The group followed behind, quieter now, but steadier. By midday, the road carried faint marks of soldiers once more, sharp cuts in the dirt, ash scattered from burned wagons. The refugees grew tense, their voices low, their steps hesitant. The mother whispered, not again, please, not again. The messenger clenched his fists, voice tight. We're close now, just beyond this bend. The ground carried distant tremors. I stopped, raising a hand. The group froze. The vibrations were uneven, faint, many feet dragging. Survivors, not soldiers, more refugees. Within moments they came into sight, a second group, smaller, even weaker. Some limped, some were carried. Their clothes were blackened with soot, their faces streaked with ash. They stopped at the sight of us, fear flashing first, then relief when they saw familiar faces among the first group. Cries rose, names shouted, families reunited, voices breaking in sobs. They clung to one another, their fear and grief spilling into tears. The younger man from the first group turned to me, his voice firm despite the tremor in it. You have to see. Our homes, they're gone. I bowed my head slightly. Lead me. The refugees gathered themselves, their strength faint, but pushed forward by urgency. We walked together. The air grew thicker with ash as we moved. The earth carried the scars of fire clearly. The soil was charred, the grass burned away. My steps pressed into hardened ground. The smell of smoke lingered even now. When we reached the rise above the village, the survivors' voices broke. The land below carried the shape of ruins. Homes burned to blackened frames, fences collapsed, fields turned to ash. Animals were gone, the silence heavy. The messenger's voice was low, almost choked. This is what I feared. The refugees wept openly. Some sank to their knees, clutching the dirt. The mother held her child tight, whispering apologies to him. The elder stared silently, his body trembling. I stood still, listening. The earth told me the truth. The village was destroyed. Only survivors remained. The men turned to me, desperation raw in their voices. What do we do now? My voice was steady. We will aid who remains. Then we will decide the path forward. They clung to the words, not because they promised victory, but because they were steady, certain. In the ruin of all they knew, steadiness was enough. Chapter 7. Clash in the Ashes. The ruins lay silent. Ash clung to the air, carried by the faintest wind. Survivors knelt in the dirt, voices broken with weeping. Children clung to their mothers. Men stared blankly at the remains of their homes. The elder coughed weakly, his breath rasping. I stood at the rise, beads heavy upon my chest. The earth carried every tremor below, burned beams shifting under weight, the scurrying of insects already nesting in the wreckage, the shallow breaths of the weary. Then I felt it. The ground shook faintly under sharp, uniform steps, multiple bodies. The rhythm was strict, disciplined. Soldiers. I raised my head slightly. They return. The refugees froze. Their whispers broke into panic. No. They'll kill us all. We have to run. The messenger's voice cracked, fear rising. What do we do? I reached for the chain resting across my shoulder. The iron links rattled, heavy yet controlled. My voice was deep, even. Stay behind me. The footsteps grew louder. From the southern edge of the ruins they emerged. Fire Nation scouts, at least 10 in number. Their armor clinked softly, their voices crude and confident. One laughed harshly. Look at this. Rats came back to their ashes. Another sneered. We should finish them off before they crawl to another hole. The leader, taller, his voice sharp with authority, barked a command. Round them up. Take what they have left. The refugees shrank back, cries rising. The mother clutched her child tightly, whispering apologies. The young men stepped forward instinctively, but their fear was stronger than their resolve. I stepped between the soldiers and the villagers. My beads shifted with the movement. My voice was calm, resonant. You will not touch them. The soldiers halted, taken aback by my size, my presence. Their leader narrowed his eyes, then barked a laugh. A blind monk. You think you can stop us? Another soldier jeered. Look at his weapon. He carries toys. I spread my stance slowly, grounding my feet into the soil. The earth welcomed me, speaking clearly. I swung the flail once, the chain rattling heavy in the air, the spiked head striking the ground with a dull crack. The vibration spread outward, a sphere of truth. The soldiers' confidence faltered slightly. Still, the leader snarled, "Kill him." 3 rushed forward. Their boots struck the dirt. My chain spun, the flail whistling through the air. I struck once, the head slamming into the chest of the first. His armor crumpled, the air leaving him in a sharp cry as he flew backward, crashing into ash. The second swung a spear, the whistle sharp. I turned, chain flashing, wrapping the shaft and tearing it from his grasp. He cried out, stumbling. The third raised his fist, fire sparking. He thrust forward, flame roaring toward me. The heat brushed my skin, but my breath remained steady. I struck the ground with my axe. Earth shifted instantly under my feet, rising in a wall that blocked the fire. My body stilled. The world held its breath. The flame struck stone. Smoke hissed. The wall stood. The soldier staggered back, eyes wide. He's an earthbender. The refugees gasped behind me. The messenger's breath caught in shock. I stood tall, hands firm on my weapon. The ground pulsed beneath me, alive, awaiting my command. The truth was undeniable. My body had always heard the earth. Now it obeyed me. The leader snarled. So he bends, he's one man, burn him. They rushed again. Fire sparked, flames roared. I raised my hand, palm pressed to the soil. The ground shifted with my will. Stone burst upward, shards flying. 2 soldiers cried out, struck and thrown back. Another swung a blade. I twisted, chains striking. The flail crushed the weapon, shattering steel, then drove into his chest. He fell limp. The leader roared, charging himself, fire blazing from both fists. His flames curved wide, a wave meant to consume all before him. I slammed my axe into the ground, earth cracked. A fissure split forward, cutting the flame in 2. The fire hissed harmlessly past. I stepped forward through the gap, chains spinning, flail striking with crushing force. His body struck the dirt, armor shattered. The others faltered. Their breaths came fast, fear replacing arrogance. One cried out, "Retreat, retreat." They turned, stumbling back toward the road. Those still standing dragged their wounded, abandoning weapons in panic. Within moments, the scouts fled, their cries fading into distance. Silence returned, broken only by the heavy breaths of the refugees. The messenger's voice shook. You stop them." The mother sobbed softly, clutching her child tighter. The young men stared, disbelief plain. The elder coughed, then muttered hoarsely, "Spirits bless us." I stood still, lowering my weapon, the chain rattling softly. My voice remained calm. "They will return. We must move north." The refugees looked to me, their fear not gone, but steadied by what they had seen. They nodded quickly, murmuring agreement. The messenger bowed his head deeply. "Lead us, we'll follow." I inclined my head. "Gather what remains. We leave at once." The villagers moved quickly, fear lending them strength. They lifted what little they could carry, bundles of clothes, a few tools, scraps of food. The cart was reloaded, lighter now, but still heavy for them. I lifted it again without strain. "Guide me." We left the ruins behind. The survivors did not look back. Their voices were quiet, heavy with grief, but steadier now. Children clung to their mothers, young men walked at my side, ready to support if needed. The elder leaned on his stick, his steps slow but determined. The road north stretched long. The earth carried each step to me clearly. The refugees followed, hope faint but alive. Chapter 8. Burdens on the road north. The ruins were left behind in silence. The air was heavy with ash and smoke, but the survivors did not turn their heads. Their steps carried them north, toward a future that was uncertain. Their breaths came fast and shallow, their voices hushed, but they moved. I carried the cart, its weight resting across my arms and shoulders. The wood creaked under the strain, but my steps remained steady, the earth beneath me clear with every vibration. The refugees followed close, their feet dragging in the dirt, their bodies weakened but driven forward by fear and the faintest thread of hope. The messenger walked at my side. His voice was low but steady. "If we keep this pace, we'll reach Wei's village in 2 days, maybe less." I inclined my head slightly. "We will not stop until they rest in safety." The mother with the child quickened her steps, though her breath grew ragged. The young men flanked her, carrying small bundles. The elder leaned heavily on his stick, his cough breaking through the silence often. The children's voices were soft. "Mama, I'm tired." "Keep walking," she whispered back. "Just a little longer." The road stretched ahead. Trees lined either side, their branches whispering faintly in the wind. The soil carried traces of many who had passed. The sharp, heavy marks of soldiers, the lighter, uneven paths of villagers fleeing, the faint drag of carts like ours. By midday the sun was hot. The refugees' breaths grew harsher. I set the cart down gently. "We stop here." They sank to the ground quickly, grateful. The messenger handed out water skins, the children drinking first, the elder sipping carefully before coughing again. Rice balls were shared, the portions small, but enough to still their hunger for the moment. I remained standing, listening to the earth. The forest spoke softly, animals moving in the distance, branches shifting. But farther south, faint tremors, soldiers again. They were searching. I raised my voice, calm but firm. We must move soon. They draw near. Fear rippled through the group. The young men glanced at one another, uncertain. The mother clutched her child tighter. The elder muttered weakly, "They won't stop hunting." The messenger's voice shook slightly. "Then we move now." The refugees rose slowly, gathering their meager belongings. I lifted the cart again, settling its weight. We moved forward once more. The day stretched long. Their steps grew heavier, their breaths shorter. Children whimpered softly, soothed by their mother's murmurs. The elder stumbled often, but each time he rose again, supported by the young men. The soldiers' movements pressed closer, but they had not yet seen us. Each time the earth trembled with their steps, I guided the refugees from the road into the forest, waiting in silence until the danger passed. Then we moved again, slower but safer. As night approached, their strength faltered. The mother's child whimpered with hunger. The elder collapsed briefly, his body giving way. The young men pulled him up, their own bodies trembling with exhaustion. The messenger turned to me, desperation in his tone. "We can't go farther tonight. They'll collapse." I set the cart down. "We stop here." They sank into the grass, lying down wherever they stood. Their breaths were ragged, but relief passed through them. I remained standing, listening to the earth. Soldiers' footsteps passed distantly, not near enough to threaten yet. The messenger sat heavily, wiping sweat from his brow. His voice carried exhaustion. "If we keep moving like this, some of them won't make it." I bowed my head slightly. "Then I will carry them." His voice faltered. "All of them?" "Yes." The night was quiet. I stood watch while they slept, beads in hand. The earth told me of every tremor nearby. No soldiers came close. The refugees' breathing steadied in sleep, though their dreams carried whispers of fear. At dawn, we rose again. Their bodies were weaker than before. The elder could not walk far without stumbling. The mother carried her child with trembling arms. The young men pressed forward, but their steps were slow. I stepped forward. "Give him to me." The mother hesitated, then placed the child in my arms. He was light against me, his breath shallow, but steady. I shifted the cart to one arm, the child cradled in the other. The elder collapsed again. I reached down, lifting him with ease, settling him atop the cart. His weak laugh escaped between coughs. "You carry us all, monk." I moved forward steady. The villagers followed, their fear lessened by my presence, though their bodies still weakened. By midday, soldiers' steps trembled closer again. This time many, the messenger's breath caught. "They're near, too near." I set the cart down. The earth vibrated stronger. At least 20 soldiers, spread in groups combing the land. Their voices carried faintly. "They're searching," the messenger whispered. The refugees trembled, voices hushed in panic. "What do we do?" "They'll find us." I raised my hand slightly. My voice was calm. "Stay behind me." I pressed my palm to the soil. The earth shifted easily beneath my will. A low wall rose slowly around us, stone pulled from the ground, forming a barrier of rock that hid the refugees from view. Their gasps of shock broke the silence. The messenger stared, voice trembling. You really are an earthbender." I stood tall, chain heavy in my grasp. The soldiers' steps grew louder. Their voices carried closer. One shouted, "Tracks, they went this way." The refugees clutched one another, their fear spilling into whispers. The mother wept softly, holding her child tight. The young men clenched their fists, though their hands shook. The first soldiers came into view. Their leader barked a command. "Search the forest. They can't be far." They moved closer. My beads shifted against my chest. My stance was steady, grounded. The chain rattled softly as I lifted it. My voice was low, even. "They will not reach you." The soldiers advanced. Chapter 9. The Weight of Battle. The sound of armored boots pressed closer. 20 soldiers, spread in formation. Their voices carried harshly through the trees, confident, sharp, and careless. "Tracks here," one shouted. They can't be far, another answered. Bring them out. Burn the forest if you have to. The refugees behind me trembled, their voices breaking into whispers. Mothers clutched their children close. The elder coughed harshly, muttering hoarsely, "They'll kill us all." The messenger's breath came fast, his voice unsteady. "There are too many." I lifted the chain slowly. The iron links rattled, the sound deep and heavy. My voice was calm, steady. "Remain behind me." The mother cried out softly, clutching her child tighter. The young men pressed forward a step, fear in their faces but anger in their eyes. I raised one hand slightly. "Stay." They halted, obeying without question. The soldiers entered the clearing. Their leader, taller than the rest, with a scar across his cheek, sneered at the sight of me standing before the stone wall. "You think one blind man can stop us?" Laughter broke out among the ranks. Some cracked their knuckles, others lit flames in their palms. I spread my stance, grounding my feet. The earth pulsed beneath me, alive with detail. I swung the flail once in a circle, the head striking the dirt with a heavy crack. The sound carried. The refugees behind me fell silent. The leader's sneer twisted into anger. "Kill him, burn the rest." They charged. 3 came first, their boots pounding in rhythm. One thrust a spear, another raised his fists, fire sparking, the third swung a curved blade. I breathed deeply. My chain snapped forward, the flail striking the spear in a single blow. The wood shattered. The soldier cried out, thrown back into the dirt. The second unleashed flame. I pressed my palm to the soil. A slab of stone rose sharply, blocking the fire. I stepped around it, chain swinging wide. The spiked head struck his chest, the armor caving with the sound of cracking bone. He collapsed, air leaving him in a sharp gasp. The third's blade whistled close. I twisted, chain wrapping his weapon. A sharp pull tore it from his hands. I slammed the flail down. He fell, unconscious. The others faltered briefly. Then their leader roared, "Forward, don't stop." They rushed together. Fire erupted from 4 at once, waves of flame rushing toward me. The heat brushed against my skin, but my stance remained calm. I slammed my axe into the dirt, the earth shifting at my command. A wall rose before me, the flames striking stone. The air hissed, smoke rising. I lowered the wall with emotion, stepping through the gap. My chain spun in wide arcs. The flail struck one soldier in the side, throwing him back into 2 others. Armor bent, bodies crumpled. Another lunged from behind. His sword whistled. I twisted, axe catching the blade, snapping it clean. My elbow struck his chest, and he fell gasping. More surrounded me now. One thrust fire from his palm, close, the heat fierce. I pressed my hand to the soil. A pillar of stone burst upward, slamming into his stomach and throwing him back. His cry ended in silence as he struck the ground. The chain lashed again, the flail striking the legs of 2 soldiers. Bones cracked. They screamed, collapsing. The leader pushed forward, roaring in fury. His arms lit with fire, flames bursting from both fists. He charged, striking with wide arcs, flame roaring like a torch. I breathed deeply. The ground spoke clearly. I sidestepped once, the flame hissing past. My chain lashed, the flail slamming into his arm. Armor shattered, his cry loud. He staggered, but swung again with his other fist. I dropped low, pressing both hands to the soil. The ground shifted, stone rising beneath my command. It surged upward in a pillar, striking his chest and throwing him back. He landed hard, armor bending, breath torn from him. The remaining soldiers faltered. Fear replaced their arrogance. One shouted, "He's not just a monk, he's a bender." Another cried out, "Retreat, fall back." But the leader staggered to his feet, his voice hoarse but furious. "No retreat, burn him." He thrust both arms forward, fire roaring. 3 others joined him, a wave of flame surging together. The heat pressed close, fierce. I stood firm, both hands pressed to the soil. The ground obeyed instantly. A wall of stone rose high, thick, blocking the fire entirely. Flames hissed and scattered, smoke curling upward. I lowered the wall as the soldiers gasped. Their breaths were fast, uneven, their fear strong now. I stepped forward, flail swinging. The iron head crashed into one soldier, throwing him aside. Another struck at me with flame. I answered with stone rising beneath him, slamming him into the air before he hit the ground hard. The leader roared, charging once more. I swung the chain wide. The flail struck his chest directly, the armor crumpling. His cry was sharp, his body thrown back into the dirt. He did not rise again. The rest broke. Their fear overcame their orders. They fled into the trees, dragging their wounded, voices panicked. Within moments, silence returned. The battlefield was still. Only groans of the injured remained, fading quickly as they stumbled away. Behind me, the refugees were silent at first. Then their voices rose, trembling with awe. He stopped them. All of them. They ran. The messenger's breath shook as he spoke. You saved us again. The mother wept softly, clutching her child tightly. The elder muttered between coughs, his voice hoarse. The spirits sent him. I lowered my weapon, the chain rattling softly. My voice was steady. They will not return soon. We move north. The refugees nodded quickly, relief mixing with exhaustion. They gathered their bundles again, their voices softer but steadier. The young men looked at me with wide eyes, fear still in them, but now joined with respect. I lifted the cart once more, settling its weight. Guide me. The messenger bowed his head deeply, then stepped forward. This way. We walked north again. The air was clearer now, the ash fading with distance. The refugees' steps were still heavy, but their breaths carried more strength than before. Children clung to their mothers, whispering softly. The elder leaned on his stick, coughing still, but walked with firmer steps. The ruins and the battle were behind us. The road stretched ahead, long and hard, but they followed me without question. Chapter 10. Arrival at Wei's village. The road north stretched long, but we moved without pause. The battle was behind us, and though the refugees' bodies were weary, their steps carried more strength now. Hope, faint but present, pressed them forward. The cart rested upon my shoulders. Its weight was constant, but my arms did not falter. The child rested against me, his breath shallow but steady. The elder lay upon the cart, his body trembling with weakness, though his eyes remained open, watching the road ahead. The young men walked on either side, their faces marked with fatigue but sharpened with determination. The messenger led, his pace firm despite his own exhaustion. The mothers whispered softly to their children, soothing them when they whimpered. The group moved together, bound by necessity. By midday, the forest opened. The soil carried the vibrations of cultivated land, fences, tilled fields, stone ovens, and clustered homes. The scent of smoke and cooking drifted faintly through the air. Wei's village lay before us. The messenger exhaled in relief. We've made it. The refugees' voices broke in sobs and laughter, some collapsing briefly in the dirt before pushing themselves forward again. Their eyes, hollow with grief, now lit with faint hope. The sound of our approach carried into the village. Voices rose in surprise. Footsteps hurried. Within moments, villagers gathered at the road's edge, their gazes fixed upon us. Their breaths caught when they saw the crowd of survivors, their clothes torn, their bodies weak. Murmurs spread quickly. Who are they? So many. They're from the south. Look at them. Elder Wei stepped forward, his cane striking the earth with steady rhythm. His eyes narrowed as he counted the refugees, his face grim. The messenger hurried to him, bowing his head. Elder, these are the survivors. Their village was destroyed. We brought them here. Wei's voice was heavy, though not unkind. How many? The messenger's tone faltered. Dozens, more than I thought would live. Wei's silence stretched. His gaze swept over the crowd, the mothers holding children, the elder coughing weakly on the cart, the young men carrying bundles of scraps, the hollow faces of the tired. Villagers murmured behind him, their voices uneasy. There are too many. We barely have food for ourselves. They'll bring soldiers down on us. Fear and resentment colored their tones. Mothers pulled their own children closer. Men crossed their arms uneasily. I stepped forward, beads shifting heavily across my chest. My voice carried deep and steady. They survived. They will not be turned away. The villagers fell silent at the sound. Wei's eyes narrowed at me briefly, then turned back to the crowd. His voice remained firm. Bring water, bring food, shelter them in the guest houses. They will stay. The villagers hesitated, then obeyed, though their murmurs did not cease. Some brought water skins, others baskets of rice. The refugees drank and ate quickly, their relief clear. Children wept as they drank deeply, mothers soothing them with quiet murmurs. But not all faces welcomed them. A farmer's voice rose sharp. Elder, we don't have enough. Our stores are thin. If we feed them, we'll starve. Another added quickly, and the soldiers will follow them. If they stay, they bring danger here. Voices joined in, fear growing. We can't protect so many. They'll take what's ours. The refugees shrank back, clutching their children. The mother I had carried tightened her arms around her son, whispering apologies. The young men clenched their fists, their shame and anger quiet but clear. I stepped forward again, the ground shifting faintly with my weight. My voice cut through the noise, slow and certain. I will protect this place. Your fields, your homes, your people. The soldiers will not touch you. The murmurs quieted, though unease remained. Wei struck his cane once upon the ground, his voice sharp. Enough, they will stay. We are not Fire Nation. We do not abandon our own. The villagers fell silent, though their eyes carried worry. They dispersed slowly, some casting glances of resentment, others avoiding the refugees entirely. The refugees were led into the village. Water was given, bowls of rice passed, mats laid out in spare homes. The elder was carried to rest in the largest guest house. The mothers laid their children down upon straw mats, whispering comfort. The young men settled near them, their hands tight around the little they still carried. I remained standing in the square, chain heavy at my side. The villagers avoided my gaze, though they whispered of the battle I had fought. Some spoke of strength, others of danger. Wei approached slowly, his steps measured. His voice was low, meant for me alone. You have brought us many mouths. Their presence will divide the people. They fear what little they have will vanish. I bowed my head slightly. Then I will provide what they cannot. Wei studied me silently. At last he exhaled through his nose. Very well, rest tonight. Tomorrow we will speak again. I inclined my head, as you wish. He left me then, turning his cane back toward his home. The night came. The refugees slept uneasily, their breaths ragged but calmer than before. The villagers locked their doors, their whispers carrying faintly through the night air. I remained awake, beads in hand, listening to the ground. No soldiers yet. The village slept. Morning came. The sun rose over the fields, the air heavy with the smell of smoke from cookfires. The villagers worked, but their voices were tense. The refugees lingered in the square, uncertain, their children clinging to them. I rose from my place, stepping into the square. The young men looked to me, their faces worn but determined. One spoke, his voice quiet but steady. What do we do now? I answered slowly, my voice deep. You will help where you can. Carry burdens, mend fences, gather water. You will earn your place here. Their eyes sharpened with resolve. They nodded quickly. The mothers bowed their heads. We will cook, we will clean, anything. I inclined my head. Then begin. All will see you share their weight. The villagers watched as the refugees rose. The young men lifted timber, carried water, stacked firewood. The mothers scrubbed laundry, cooked rice, mended torn clothes. Slowly, the work began to shift the villagers' eyes. Suspicion remained, but the fear softened faintly. I joined the labor. I lifted beams, repaired roofs, carried loads heavier than any ox could bear. My presence steadied them, my strength silenced doubt. Each strike of hammer, each stone I lifted, each wall I raised pressed the two groups closer together. By midday, their voices carried less hostility. By evening, children of both groups played together in the dirt, their laughter breaking the silence of fear. Still, unease lingered. The villagers had not forgotten the soldiers, and neither had I. The earth whispered of movements far to the south, faint but real. They searched still. Chapter 11. The Village Gathering. The next morning began with the usual rhythm of work. The villagers rose early, tending to the fields and animals. The refugees worked alongside them now, carrying wood, fetching water, cleaning. Their voices were quieter, but steadier than when they first arrived. Still, tension lingered. Some villagers avoided them, their glances sharp, their words whispered. Food was thinner now with so many mouths. Pots that once fed one family were divided for two. Children ate more slowly, their mothers urging them to be content with smaller portions. By midday, Elder Wei called for a gathering. His voice carried through the square, firm and deliberate. All will come, villagers and guests alike. We must speak of food and of protection. The people gathered slowly, drawn from their homes and work. The villagers stood together on one side, their faces lined with unease. The refugees stood opposite, their bodies weary, children clinging close. The air was heavy with quiet hostility. I stood at the center, beads heavy across my chest, chain resting at my side. My stance was firm, feet grounded. The earth spoke clearly beneath me. Wei stepped forward, leaning on his cane. His voice was steady, carrying across the square. Our village has little. Our stores are not full. The Fire Nation presses closer each season, and now many mouths come to us from the south. A farmer's voice rose sharply. Too many, we cannot feed them. Another added quickly, if they stay, we will all starve. Murmurs spread. The villagers nodded, their voices carrying fear and anger. The mother of one refugee clutched her child tighter, her voice breaking as she spoke. We had nothing. Our homes are gone. We cannot leave. Her words sparked fresh argument. Then what of our homes? One villager snapped. Will you take them too? The young men from the refugees bristled, their fists clenched. One shouted back, we never asked for fire to burn our homes. The square filled with voices, anger, fear, grief. Wei raised his cane and struck the ground sharply. The sound cut through the noise. Silence followed. His voice carried again, firm. Enough. We will not tear each other apart. We are one people. If we fight each other, the Fire Nation wins without raising a hand. The villagers grumbled, but they quieted. The refugees lowered their heads, though their shame was clear. Wei turned, his gaze settling on me. His voice was heavy. There is more than food to speak of. We have seen soldiers pass. We know they may return. This village has no walls, no soldiers. We are farmers. If they come, we cannot stand. The silence deepened. Fear pressed against the crowd. Mothers clutched their children. Men shifted uneasily. Wei's voice did not falter. But this man stood against them. He broke their ranks. He carried our burdens and theirs. Without him, none of them would be here. Without him, we would already have fallen. He struck his cane once more. The sound echoed. His voice rose, steady and firm. He will lead our defense. He will stand where we cannot. All eyes turned to me. The refugees' faces lit with relief. The villagers' eyes carried doubt, fear, but also the faint spark of hope. I stepped forward, pressing my palms together briefly. My voice carried deep and steady, every word deliberate. If soldiers come, I will protect this place. I ask only this, that all work, all carry weight, all share burden, none stand aside. The crowd shifted. Villagers glanced at one another, uneasy. The refugees bowed their heads quickly, their voices rising. We will work. We will share. Anything. Wei nodded slowly, then turned back to the villagers. His voice sharpened. You have seen his strength. You have seen his will. Do you doubt he can stand against them? One farmer spoke, his tone harsh. He may fight them once, but what if they return with more? We cannot live on hope alone. I turned my head toward him. My voice remained steady. Then we will be ready each time. I do not fall. If they come, I will meet them. The man faltered, his words caught. Others shifted uneasily, but no more objections rose. The silence stretched. Wei exhaled, his shoulders heavy, his voice lowered. Then it is decided, they stay, and we prepare. The gathering ended slowly. The villagers dispersed, their voices still hushed with doubt, but quieter now. The refugees returned to their shelters, their relief plain though tempered with unease. Wei remained, standing at my side. His voice was low, for me alone. You have taken a burden greater than any one man should, yet you speak as though it weighs nothing. I inclined my head slightly. I carry what must be carried. He tapped his cane against the ground, then turned away. The following days were heavy with work. Under Wei's order, fields were tended, animals gathered close, fences repaired. Refugees and villagers labored side by side, though tension remained. I worked among them each day. I lifted beams, carried stones, repaired walls. I shaped earth where strength alone could not suffice, raising barriers at the edge of the village, reinforcing homes against fire. The villagers watched with wary awe each time stone rose at my command. Children followed me often, their laughter soft, their questions many. How do you lift so much? Can you teach me to bend? Will the soldiers come again? My answers remained steady, my tone even. I lift what I must. Bending is learned through discipline, in time, perhaps. If they come, I will stand. The children smiled at the certainty of my words. Their mothers watched quietly, comfort faint but present. At night I remained awake, listening to the earth. The ground carried the faint tremors of soldiers far to the south, but none near enough yet. The village slept, though unease lingered. By the fourth day, food grew thinner. The villagers grumbled more openly. Mothers urged their children to eat less. The refugees gave up their portions often, pressing them into the hands of others. Wei called another gathering. The villagers arrived reluctantly, their voices sharp before he even spoke. We cannot feed so many. Our children starve while theirs eat. Better they leave before we all suffer. The refugees shrank back, shame plain in their faces. Children clung to their mothers, eyes wide with fear. Wei struck his cane against the ground. Silence, we will not abandon them. The villagers muttered, but quieted. Wei turned to me again, his voice low but heavy. They will not listen to me alone. They will listen to you. Speak. I stepped forward. The beads shifted against my chest. My voice carried across the square, deep and deliberate. There is food beyond these walls, fields untended, animals scattered. The Fire Nation does not take all. If you cannot feed all with what you have, then we will gather more. The villagers stirred. One shouted, and when soldiers catch us in the fields. I turned my head toward him. Then I will stand with you. The murmurs spread, some fearful, some hopeful. The refugees' eyes lit faintly with gratitude. The villagers' anger softened into silence. Wei nodded once, his voice firm. Then tomorrow we go together, all able men. The monk will walk with us. We will gather what we need. The decision was made. Fear remained, but it was shared now. The burden was no longer divided between two groups. It belonged to all. Chapter 12. Fields of ash and grain. The morning came with heavy air. The village stirred earlier than usual, the sound of doors opening, buckets lifted, voices hushed with worry. Wei had spoken clearly the night before. Today, they would leave together to seek food from the farms abandoned after Fire Nation raids. The villagers gathered in the square, their faces tense. Some carried tools, hoes, knives, sacks. The refugees stood nearby, ready but anxious. Children clung to their mothers, watching silently. Wei stepped forward, his cane striking the earth once. His voice was steady. Today we go together. Men and women who can walk will carry. The monk will protect us. The rest will guard the children. Murmurs rose, fear, doubt, small arguments. If soldiers come, we shouldn't all go. What if they find the village empty? Wei raised his hand. Enough. We cannot live on fear. We must eat. We go. The group fell silent. They prepared quietly, fastening sacks to their backs, tying ropes around baskets, sharpening tools. The mothers pressed food into their children's hands before leaving them behind with the elder women. I stepped forward, beads shifting, chain heavy across my shoulders. My voice carried deep and even. I will walk at the front. Wei nodded once, then we follow. The group began to move. Dozens walked the dirt road, villagers and refugees side by side, though their glances remained cautious. Their footsteps carried uneven rhythm, sandals dragging, boots scuffing, breath short with worry. I led, my pace slow but steady, each step grounded. The earth spoke clearly, roots beneath the soil, stones scattered, the faint tremors of animals moving far away. No soldiers yet. Hours passed. The sun climbed, warm upon our backs. The people whispered as they walked, voices hushed. How far? Do you think food remains? What if the soldiers burned it all? The refugees' voices carried fear, but also determination. Even scraps are better than nothing. We cannot return empty-handed. Wei walked with us, his cane striking softly with each step. He did not complain, though his breath was heavier with age. By midday, the fields came into reach. The earth carried their story before they came into sight. Furrows cut by ploughs, long and tended, fences fallen in decay, patches of ash where fire had run. When we reached the edge, the people stopped. Their eyes swept the land before them. Crops stood still in places, wild and overgrown. Cornstalks bent but alive, wheat swaying lightly, roots tangled but unburned. In other places, ash covered the soil, black and lifeless. A farmer's voice broke the silence. Some survived. Another exhaled in relief. Enough to gather. The people spread quickly. Mothers bent to cut wheat with knives. Fathers pulled roots from the soil. Refugees joined them without pause, filling baskets, tying bundles. Children too young to be left behind worked beside their parents, their hands small but eager. The murmurs shifted to relief. Here, this patch still grows. The Fire Nation missed this field. Gather quickly. I remained at the edge, listening to the earth. Their steps pressed the soil with urgency, their voices lighter now. But beneath the calm, far to the south, tremors of boots, heavy, measured, soldiers. I turned my head toward Wei. They march. He stopped, his cane pressing into the dirt, his voice lowered. How close? Far yet, but closer with each step. His silence was heavy. Then he spoke louder. Work faster. We must not be here when they arrive. The people did not argue. They bent lower, cut quicker, stuffed sacks until they bulged. The young men carried the heaviest loads, their arms straining. Sweat dripped from their brows, but they did not falter. The mothers urged their children to carry small bundles. Hold this. Don't drop it. Good. I moved among them, lifting heavier loads, carrying what the weaker could not. My strength turned hours of labor into minutes. Sacks that would have broken a man's back I lifted with one arm. The people watched in silence, their fear easing faintly at the sight. The sun lowered. The fields, once silent, now lay stripped of what remained. The villagers stood with baskets full, sacks heavy across their backs. Their breaths came hard, but their faces carried relief. Then the earth shifted again, stronger now, closer, soldiers. I set the cart I had loaded down carefully. My voice was calm, carrying over the field. They come. The people froze. Their voices broke into panic. What do we do? They'll see us. We can't fight them all. Wei raised his hand, his voice firm though low. Quiet, do not scatter. I stepped forward, chain rattling softly as it shifted across my shoulder. My voice was even, deliberate. You will move north. I will stand. The villagers' fear broke into cries. You can't alone. They'll burn you. The refugees' voices rose as well. You saved us once. Don't throw yourself away. I raised my hand, silencing them. My voice cut through the noise. You will move, now. Wei's voice followed, sharp with authority. Do as he says. Go. The villagers obeyed, though their fear was heavy. They gathered their baskets and sacks, moving quickly to the road north. Mothers pulled their children close, young men carried heavy loads, older men supported one another. The refugees joined them, their voices low but urgent. Wei remained a moment longer, his voice quiet. If you fall, we all fall. I inclined my head. I will not fall. He nodded once, then turned, his cane striking quickly as he moved after his people. I stood alone at the field's edge, the chain uncoiling, the flail heavy in my grasp. The earth trembled beneath me. The soldiers approached, their voices sharp, cruel, careless. There, the fields. Tracks everywhere. They're near. Flames lit the air faintly, sparks of fire in armored hands. Their boots pressed into the soil in harsh rhythm. I breathed deeply, my stance steady. The earth pulsed, alive beneath me. I swung the chain once, the iron links rattling. The sound carried across the ash and grain. The soldiers broke into the clearing, 20 at least. Their leader sneered at the sight of me standing alone. A monk, blind, yet standing in our path. Where are the rats you hide? I raised my head slightly. My voice was calm. They are gone. You will not follow. The soldiers laughed, cruel and sharp. Fire sparked in their fists. Their leader spat on the dirt. Burn him. They advanced. Chapter 13. Battle in the Fields. The Fire Nation soldiers advanced through the clearing, their armor clinking softly, their boots striking hard against the dirt. Flames flickered in their palms, casting light against the stalks of wheat and the patches of ash that scarred the land. Their voices carried cruel confidence. Only one man. He hides the rest. We'll burn him first. Their leader sneered, his voice sharp. Blind fool, step aside or burn. I did not move. The chain rested heavy across my shoulders, the flail in one hand, the axe in the other. My stance was firm, feet grounded. My voice carried steady. They will not be touched. Laughter spread among the soldiers. One spat into the dirt. Another lifted his hand, flame crackling at his fingertips. The leader raised his arm, barking the order. Burn him. 4 rushed first, fire bursting from their fists in bright arcs. The heat pressed against me, the air crackling. I pressed my palm to the soil. Stones surged upward, a wall rising in an instant. The flames struck it, hissing, smoke curling. I lowered the wall and stepped forward through the smoke. My chain snapped wide, the flail striking the chest of the nearest soldier. His armor bent with the impact, his body thrown back into the dirt. The second swung a blade, steel whistling. My axe met it, snapping the metal clean. I struck him with my elbow, his breath leaving him in a sharp cry as he collapsed. The third hurled fire close, the heat fierce. I stepped aside, the ground speaking clearly beneath me, and struck downward with my flail. The spiked head crushed the earth at his feet, the shockwave throwing him back. The fourth raised both fists, flame roaring. I slammed my palm into the soil. A pillar of stone burst upward, striking his chest, lifting him from the ground before he fell limp. The soldiers behind faltered, murmurs spread among them. He bends. Strong, too strong. Their leader roared, "Forward, all of you." They obeyed. 10 surged at once, fire lighting the field in a wave. Heat licked the stalks, threatening to catch. I slammed my axe into the ground. The soil responded instantly. A wall of stone rose, wider this time, shielding me. Flames struck, smoke rising thick. I lowered it again, swinging the chain in a wide arc. The flail struck 2 soldiers at once, their bodies collapsing under the blow. Another soldier leapt high, fire blazing from his feet. He descended with both fists forward, flame bursting. I pressed my palm down. The earth split, opening a fissure. He fell short, stumbling as the ground betrayed him. My chain lashed, striking him down. Two more circled from the side. Their blades struck together, aiming for my chest. I twisted, the axe catching one, the flail sweeping the other. Steel shattered, bones cracked. They fell silent. Still they came. Fire roared, soldiers shouting with fury. I met each step with calm. Stone walls rose, pillars struck, fissures split the soil. My chain swung wide, crushing armor, breaking weapons. My axe cut clean through steel. Their cries filled the field, their confidence broken. The leader shouted again, his voice sharp with rage. Useless, do it myself. Flames burst from his arms, both fists lit with fire. He charged, his steps heavy, his strikes wide and fierce. Fire surged in waves, heat pressing close. I grounded myself, breathing steady. His first strike came low, flame rushing. I stepped aside, the ground shifting beneath me, steadying my balance. My chain lashed. The flail struck his shoulder, armor bending, his cry loud. He swung again, fire bursting high. I dropped low, pressing both palms to the soil. Stone rose in a sharp pillar, slamming into his chest. He stumbled, gasping, fire faltering. I stepped forward, chain spinning. The flail struck his chest again, harder. His body was thrown back into the dirt, armor shattered. He did not rise. The soldiers saw. Their breaths caught, fear spreading quick. One cried out, "Retreat!" Another stumbled, dragging a wounded comrade. They broke. Their steps faltered into panic, their voices sharp with fear. They fled into the trees, leaving weapons behind, their flames extinguished. Silence fell over the field. Smoke drifted faintly from scorched stalks. The earth was scarred, stone pillars and walls scattered where I had called them. Behind me, voices rose. The villagers had stopped in the road, their sacks and baskets still heavy with grain. Their eyes were wide, their breaths shallow. He stood alone. He broke them. They ran. The refugees' voices trembled with relief. The mother clutched her child, tears falling freely. The young men stared, their fear replaced with awe. The elder coughed weakly, his voice hoarse but certain. Spirits guard us through him. I turned back, chains settling heavy at my side. My voice carried deep and steady. The path is clear. We move north. The villagers did not hesitate. They gathered their burdens and followed. Their steps were quicker now, lighter despite the weight of food. The refugees moved with them, their voices quieter, steadier. Children clung to their mothers, whispering softly, comforted. Wei approached slowly, his cane striking the dirt. His voice was low, for me alone. You stood against 20, alone. I inclined my head slightly. I will stand against more. He studied me silently for a moment, then turned, his voice carrying to the people. Move quickly, the soldiers may return. The villagers obeyed, their pace firm. I lifted the cart once more, settling its weight across my shoulders. The elder rested upon it, his body frail but his eyes clear. The child slept against my arm, his breath soft. We left the fields behind. Smoke and ash faded with distance. The road stretched ahead, but the people walked with less fear than before. They had seen. And they followed, chapter 14, dividing the harvest. The road back to Wei's village stretched long, but the people walked with firmer steps than before. Their baskets and sacks were full. The heavy loads weighed their shoulders, but the food within them gave strength to their bodies and hope to their voices. Children who had cried in hunger clung to their mothers with faint smiles now, soothed by the promise of meals to come. The young men walked straighter despite exhaustion, their gazes fixed on the road ahead. Even the elder, resting upon the cart I carried, coughed less as his eyes scanned the horizon. By the time the sun lowered, the village came into sight. Smoke from cookfires rose faintly, doors opened, voices carried. The villagers still at home stepped forward quickly when they saw us, their eyes drawn to the sacks and baskets bulging with grain. Murmurs spread at once. They found food. So much. Enough to last weeks. Relief flickered across their faces. Then worry returned. Their voices lowered, suspicion carried between them. But how will it be shared? We have mouths to feed too. They'll take more than their share. The refugees lowered their heads at the whispers, clutching their baskets tighter. Mothers pulled children close, shame and fear in their faces. The young men shifted uneasily, bracing for hostility. Elder Wei moved forward, his cane striking the dirt. His voice was steady, but his shoulders heavy with the burden of the moment. All return to the square. The food will be divided. The villagers obeyed reluctantly, their voices low but sharp. The refugees followed slowly, their steps heavy. I carried the cart into the center, setting it down carefully. The grain within spilled faintly at the edges, the smell of wheat sharp in the air. The people gathered in a wide circle, villagers on one side, refugees on the other. Their faces reflected hunger, fear, and suspicion. Wei stood at the center, his cane pressed firmly to the ground. His voice carried across the crowd. All who work today will eat. All who remain will eat. We will divide fairly. The murmurs rose at once. A villager shouted, "Fair, they eat what we gathered." A refugee mother answered sharply, her voice trembling. "We carried too. We worked until our arms failed." The noise grew louder. Villagers raised their voices, demanding more for themselves. Refugees shouted back, their fear turned to anger. Children cried, clinging to their mothers as the arguments deepened. Wei struck his cane hard against the dirt. "Silence!" The sound cut through the voices, but the anger did not fade. The crowd quieted only slightly, their eyes fixed on him, their breathing harsh. His gaze turned to me, his voice lowered, heavy. "They will not listen to me alone. They will listen to you." I stepped forward. My beads shifted across my chest, the chain rattling softly at my side. My stance was steady. My voice carried deep, even and slow. All worked, all carried, all shared the danger, all will eat. The villagers muttered. A farmer's voice rose, harsh. "If soldiers come again, they bring danger with them. Why must our children go hungry for theirs?" I turned my head toward him. My voice remained calm. "Your children will not starve, nor will theirs. If food is short, I will carry more. You will not suffer alone." The man faltered, his anger breaking into silence. His wife placed a hand on his arm, her voice soft. "He speaks truth. He carried more than 10 men today." The refugees murmured their agreement. A young man called out, his voice clear. "We do not seek to take more than our share, only enough to live." Another added quickly, "We will work tomorrow and the day after, as long as it takes." The villagers' anger quieted, though suspicion lingered. Mothers whispered to their children. Men crossed their arms but did not speak further. The refugees lowered their heads, but their eyes carried determination. Wei raised his hand, his voice sharp once more. "Then it is decided. The food will be divided equally. No family will go without." The villagers grumbled, but none objected openly. The refugees sighed in relief, some weeping quietly. The children clapped their hands, too young to understand the depth of the struggle, only the promise of food. The people began to move, carrying sacks to the granaries, measuring grain into smaller portions. Mothers carried bowls to their homes, children clutching small bundles of roots or corn. The young men hauled the heaviest baskets to storage, sweat running down their brows but their steps steady. I remained in the square, lifting sacks too heavy for others, stacking them carefully within the granary walls. The villagers watched silently as I carried more than any ox, each load steady in my grasp. Their voices softened, awe breaking through suspicion. One farmer muttered, "No man should lift like that." Another answered quieter, "No man but him." The refugees watched as well, their gratitude plain. Mothers bowed their heads, whispering thanks. The young men nodded silently, respect clear in their eyes. When the last sack was placed, Wei stood once more before the people. His voice was firm. "Tonight all eat. Tomorrow we work again. We will not waste what was gained." The people nodded, some reluctantly, others with resolve. Slowly, they dispersed to their homes, carrying food, their voices lower now. The refugees gathered near the guest houses. A mother placed a bowl in my hands, her voice trembling. "Please, eat with us." I bowed my head slightly. "Your kindness is received." I ate slowly, each grain of rice taken without haste. The refugees spoke softly as they ate, their voices filled with relief. Children laughed faintly, their bellies full for the first time in days. The young men sat quietly, their exhaustion deep, but their gazes lifted. The villagers, though distant, did not shout or argue further. Some even sent bowls to the refugees, though their faces remained guarded. As the night deepened, the square grew quiet. Fires burned low, children slept, and the weary rested upon mats. I remained seated, beads in hand, listening to the earth beneath me. The village was calm for now. Chapter 15, Forging the Will to Stand. The night passed without alarm. The village slept soundly after full bowls of rice and broth, their bellies eased for the first time in days. The murmurs of suspicion had quieted, though they had not vanished. Yet, for one night, mothers rested with their children, and men slept without fear of hunger. At dawn, I rose as I always did, beads in hand. The square was quiet, only the faint scrape of buckets drawn from the well and the soft cluck of hens stirring in their pens. I carried water to the guest houses, where the refugees stirred slowly awake. Their voices were heavy with weariness, but steadier than before. As the sun lifted higher, Wei's cane struck the earth. He called for me with a low voice, his words measured. "Walk with me." I followed him to his house at the village's center, its wooden walls lined with years of labor, its floor swept clean. Inside, a small fire burned low. The air smelled of broth and tea. He sat slowly, his cane resting beside him. His eyes studied me, his voice low but deliberate. "We must speak of what comes." I inclined my head slightly. "Say what must be said." He exhaled through his nose, a long sound. His voice grew heavy. "You alone cannot carry this burden forever. The Fire Nation will come again, perhaps in days, perhaps in weeks, and if they come in greater numbers, even you cannot stand without end." I listened in silence. His words carried truth. Wei's voice sharpened faintly. "The men of this village have never fought. They till fields, they build homes. They are not soldiers, but they must learn. And the young men of the refugees, too. They have already lost homes. They will fight to keep this one. We will make a militia, and you will teach them." I bowed my head slightly. "I will train them." Wei's shoulders lowered faintly in relief. "Good. I will call them tonight." By evening, the people gathered in the square again. Torches were lit, their light flickering across weary but determined faces. Wei stood before them, leaning on his cane. His voice carried across the crowd. "You have seen soldiers come. You have seen fire take homes. You know they will come again. If we wait, we die. If we fight without strength, we die. But if we prepare, we may live. From this night on, the monk will teach our sons, our brothers, our men, villagers and refugees alike. No more division. All who are able will stand." Murmurs spread at once. Fear was thick in their voices. "We are not soldiers. They will burn us alive. We will only die faster." But others shouted back, their tones steadier. "We cannot run forever. He saved us, we saw it. If he stands with us, we can learn." Wei raised his cane sharply. "Enough. All who can fight will gather tomorrow at dawn. You will learn, you will obey." His voice silenced them. The men looked uneasy but did not protest further. The refugees nodded quickly, determination in their faces. The young men looked to me, their eyes heavy with expectation. I stepped forward, beads shifting across my chest, chain heavy at my side. My voice was deep, even and steady. "I will teach. You will learn. You will not be soldiers, but you will not be helpless. You will carry what must be carried." The men bowed their heads. Their voices murmured agreement, some reluctant, others eager. The decision was made. At dawn they gathered. 15 in all, men of the village, broad-shouldered from years of tilling soil but untrained in combat. and young men of the refugees, their bodies leaner, their eyes sharper with loss. They stood together in the square, their breaths short with nerves. I stood before them, chain uncoiled at my feet, axe resting against my shoulder. My voice carried calm and weight. You will learn first to stand. Confusion flickered across their faces, but they obeyed as I instructed. Feet apart, knees bent, bodies grounded. I walked slowly among them, correcting with a hand on the shoulder, a tap against a knee. Your stance is your route. Without it, you fall. They adjusted, though their steps wavered. The villagers grumbled, unused to such discipline. It feels foolish. My legs ache already. The refugees, however, clenched their jaws and held. One young man spoke, his voice firm. We lost our homes because we had no strength. I will not lose again. I turned my head toward him. Then stand longer. His resolve sharpened. The others, unwilling to falter before him, straightened as well. Hours passed. Their legs shook. Sweat dripped. Still I made them hold. Mothers watched from the edges, whispering quietly. Children mimicked their fathers' stances in play. When their legs finally gave, I nodded once. You begin to learn. They collapsed into the dirt, panting. Their frustration was clear, but so was their pride. The next lesson was movement, step with balance, turn with grounding, each motion tied to the earth. They stumbled often, tripping over their own feet, cursing under their breath, but each fall taught more than I could say. By midday, their bodies shook with exhaustion. I allowed them to rest only briefly. Then I set stones before them, small, round, each heavy in the hand. Lift, hold. They obeyed. Arms trembling, shoulders aching, they held the stones aloft. Some dropped them quickly, their breaths harsh. Others gritted their teeth, refusing to yield. I walked among them, my voice low and steady. Strength is not born of one day. It is carried in each breath, each step, each burden. You will hold. By sunset, they lay on the ground, too weary to speak. Mothers brought water, children clapped small hands, laughing at their father's sweat. Wei stood at the edge, his cane pressed to the earth. His voice was low as he turned to me. They are weak now, but they will grow. I inclined my head slightly. They will. For days the training continued. At dawn they gathered. I taught them to strike, fists firm, elbows sharp, movements grounded. Their punches were weak at first, their arms flailing. But with each day their blows grew heavier, their bodies steadier. I taught them to hold poles as if spears, to block and strike in rhythm. I taught them to lift heavy stones, to carry logs across their shoulders, to run until their lungs burned. Each task built strength, patience, and resolve. The villagers cursed often, their bodies unused to such strain. But the refugees bore it in silence, their grief turning to fuel. Slowly, the villagers matched them, unwilling to be outdone. Resentment turned to rivalry. Rivalry turned to unity. By the seventh day, they no longer stumbled when they struck. Their arms moved in rhythm. Their stances held firm. Their eyes carried determination. Children watched in awe, copying the movements in play. Mothers whispered pride, though their worry remained. The elder coughed as he watched, his frail body weak but his voice firm. They learn. Wei stood beside me each evening, his eyes watching the men drill under my command. His voice was low. You have done what I could not. They believe now they can stand. I pressed my palms together. They must. He nodded once, his gaze turning north. His silence carried weight. The militia was born. Chapter 16. The ground beneath their feet. The sun rose heavy with warmth, casting its light over the village. The people stirred as they always did, mothers boiling rice, children fetching water, men tending to animals. Yet the square had changed. It no longer stood empty in the mornings. Each dawn the young men gathered, waiting with anxious energy for training. This day was no different. 15 stood ready, villagers and refugees together. Their bodies still carried exhaustion from days past, but their stances were steadier, their breathing more controlled. They did not come reluctantly now. They came because they knew they must. I stepped before them, chain resting heavy across my shoulders, beads shifting faintly with my movements. My voice carried slow and deep. Today, we listened to the earth. They exchanged uncertain glances, but they obeyed. Their feet pressed into the soil as I guided them, stances wide, knees bent, hands open. I walked among them, pressing my palm briefly to their backs or shoulders, adjusting their posture. You stand upon stone. It holds you. You must learn to hear it. Their faces showed confusion at first. They were farmers, hunters, laborers. They had never been asked to listen to dirt beneath their sandals, yet they obeyed. I pressed my hand to the soil. The earth pulsed beneath me, alive with truth. I felt the tremor of every step, the shift of every breath. I stood again, my voice steady. Close your eyes. Listen. Do not move until you feel what moves beneath you. Some obeyed quickly, their faces tightening in concentration. Others grumbled softly. One villager muttered, I hear nothing but wind. A refugee answered sharply, then listen harder. The tension between them threatened to rise, but I raised my hand. Silence followed. My voice was low but firm. Patience, the ground speaks slowly. Minutes stretched, sweat beaded on brows. The young men shifted uneasily. Then one gasped faintly. I felt it. The others turned toward him, surprised. He opened his eyes, his voice trembling. The cart, when it moved by the well earlier, I felt it through my feet. I inclined my head slightly. Good. Another young man, this one a villager, clenched his fists. He set his jaw and stood firmer. After long moments, his breath caught. There, the footsteps, children running. He opened his eyes, shocked by the truth of it. The murmurs grew louder. Some disbelieved, others burned with envy. I silenced them with a raised hand. My voice remained steady. Some among you carry more than strength. You carry the earth itself. The men stilled. Whispers spread among them. Earthbenders. Here among us. The refugees looked between one another, eyes wide. The villagers stared at their sons, disbelief in their faces. I walked slowly among them, stopping before the two who had heard the ground. My voice was calm, deliberate. You will learn more. You will not boast. You will not divide. You will bend for all, not only for yourself. They bowed their heads quickly. Yes. The others shifted uneasily, some with frustration, others with awe. A young refugee clenched his fists, muttering, Why not me? I stopped before him. All carry weight. Bending does not lessen yours. His anger quieted. He lowered his head. Through the day, I guided them. Stones were placed in the square, heavy and uneven. I pressed my palm to one, showing them. The earth obeyed with ease, the stones shifting, rising a hand's width from the ground before settling again. The young men gasped, whispers spreading quickly. I stepped back. You will try. The two who had felt the ground stepped forward. Their hands shook, their faces tight with concentration. At first, nothing. Sweat ran down their brows. Then faintly, the soil shifted. One stone rolled slightly, another cracked at the edge. The crowd watching, villagers, mothers, children, gasped aloud. He moved it. With his hands. They truly can bend. The young men fell back, panting with exhaustion, but their eyes wide with awe. Their mothers clutched their arms, pride trembling in their voices. I raised my hand. They begin to learn. It will take time, days, weeks. They will fail more than they succeed, but they will not stop. The refugees and villagers both murmured agreement, though fear lingered in some. A farmer muttered, If the Fire Nation learns, they will come harder. Another answered quickly, Then let them. We will be ready. I turned my head toward them, my voice even. Strength is not danger. Weakness is. Silence followed. The training continued. Each day the young men bent their knees, pressed their hands to the soil, and strained with all their will. Some could not move a pebble. Others shifted stones faintly, cracks spreading across the dirt. Frustration burned in many, but they did not quit. I drilled them further. Your stance is wrong. Do not lift with your arms. Root with your legs. Do not force, command. Their bodies ached, their arms shook, yet each day something shifted. A stone rolled farther, a crack deepened, a pillar rose faintly before collapsing. Their failures filled the air with grunts and curses, but their victories filled it with gasps and shouts. By the end of the week, 4 had shown the gift clearly. 2 villagers, 2 refugees. They no longer stumbled when they bent. Their stances were firmer, their movements less forced. They raised stones the size of a fist. They split cracks across the square's dirt. The people gathered to watch often. Mothers whispered pride. Children clapped their hands and begged to learn. The elder coughed as he watched, muttering faint praise. Even those who once doubted grew silent in the face of what they saw. Still, unease remained. Some villagers whispered, "If they bend, the Fire Nation will hunt us sooner." Others answered, "Then let them try. With him here we can fight." I heard each word, but I did not answer. I only guided the young men further. One evening, after a long day of drills, Wei approached as the men collapsed in the dirt, panting with exhaustion. His cane struck the ground softly. His eyes turned to me. His voice was low but certain. "You have given them more than strength. You have given them reason to believe." I inclined my head slightly. They will need both. His silence was long. Then he spoke again. "This village has never known defense. Now, for the first time, it may." I did not answer. My beads shifted softly as the square quieted with night. Chapter 17. Beyond the village. The days of training and rebuilding passed quickly. Each morning, the men gathered in the square to drill under my direction. Each evening, the people worked together to repair fences, carry water, and tend the fields. Children played more freely now, though their laughter always carried an edge of nervousness. But as days turned into a week, the food began to run thin again. The harvest we carried from the southern fields had filled the granary for a time, but the mouths were many. With each meal, bowls grew smaller. Rice was stretched with roots and leaves. Meat was scarce, hunted only in small amounts. Mothers whispered to their children to eat slowly. Men tightened their belts and said nothing. It did not take long for murmurs to rise again. At night, voices carried from homes. "There isn't enough. We cannot last the winter at this pace. Better to drive them out before we all starve." Refugees heard these whispers. Their shame grew heavy. They ate less, giving their portions to their children, to the elders. The young men grew thinner even as they trained harder. Wei called me to his house. His cane rested by his side as he spoke. His voice was steady, but lined with weight. "Our food will not last another 10 days. We must forage again, not in the old fields. They are empty. We must go farther." I bowed my head slightly. "I will lead them." He nodded once. "Take men from both sides. Let them see each other carry the same weight. Perhaps then they will stop tearing at one another." At dawn, I gathered them in the square. 10 men stepped forward. 5 villagers, broad-shouldered but weary, and 5 refugees, leaner, their eyes hard. They carried sacks and baskets, knives for cutting roots, and poles for carrying heavy loads. The villagers muttered softly among themselves. "Better not to waste time. The farther we go, the more risk." The refugees answered with sharp tones. "We risk every day. You only now feel it." The tension simmered. I raised my hand. Silence fell. My voice carried deep and even. "You will walk together. You will work together. There will be no division. If one falters, all will carry." None answered, but their eyes lowered, and they obeyed. We left the village, moving northward first, then cutting east toward hills said to hold wild orchards and untended gardens. The path was longer than the road to the southern fields. Trees thickened, grass grew taller, and the soil told me of animals moving nearby. The men carried themselves with caution. Their footsteps pressed sharp into the dirt. Their breaths were heavy with nerves. Their voices came rarely, but when they did, they were low. "Too quiet here. Watch the tree line. If soldiers patrol, we'll see them too late. The refugees spoke more openly, their fear sharper. The Fire Nation burned our homes without warning. They will not give it here either. I listened to the earth. No soldiers yet. Only animals, the weight of deer grazing far off, the light scurrying of foxes and badger moles burrowing deeper in the soil. By midday, we reached the orchards. Wild fruit hung heavy in some places, smaller in others. Trees bent under the weight of fruit untended. Roots spread thick beneath the soil. The men exhaled in relief. Food. Enough to fill the sacks. Quickly. They spread out. Refugees climbed the trees, shaking branches to send fruit tumbling. Villagers bent to cut roots from the ground, pulling them free with grunts of effort. They worked without pause, their hunger driving them. I carried the heaviest loads, lifting sacks already filled and setting them aside. My strength steadied them. My presence silenced their complaints. But as the sacks grew heavier, so too did the earth's message. Vibrations pressed faintly from the south. Steps, armored boots, not yet close, but moving this way. I turned my head. My voice was calm but firm. Work quickly. We will not linger. They obeyed without argument. Their pace quickened, their hands moving faster. The sacks filled until they bulged. Poles bent under the weight of baskets. The men's breaths grew harsh, their bodies straining. The tremors grew stronger, closer, at least a dozen soldiers. I set down the sack I carried. My voice was low, carrying across the clearing. They come. Fear spread instantly. Villagers dropped roots, refugees froze in place. Their voices broke into panic. How many? Too soon. We'll never make it back. I raised my hand, their voices cut off. My tone was steady, unshaken. You will carry, you will move north, I will remain. A villager shouted, his fear spilling over. You cannot fight them all again. I turned my head toward him. I will. The refugees lowered their eyes, shame and gratitude in their faces. One young man spoke quietly. We will not waste your strength. We will carry. The villagers gritted their teeth, but they obeyed. They lifted the sacks together, poles across their shoulders. The weight bent their backs, but they held firm. I stood at the orchard's edge, chain uncoiled at my feet, axe heavy in my hand. The earth pulsed beneath me. The soldiers' steps grew louder. Their voices carried cruel confidence. They're fresh tracks. They hide in these orchards. We'll smoke them out. I swung the chain once, the flail striking the dirt with a deep crack. The sound echoed through the clearing. The men carrying food glanced back, their fear heavy, but they moved as I commanded. The Fire Nation soldiers appeared between the trees, armor gleaming faintly in the sun, flames sparking in their fists. Their leader barked out, You again, the blind monk. You think to stand in our way once more. I pressed my palms together briefly. My voice was slow, calm. I will stand. They laughed, cruel and harsh. Fire lit the air. Their leader raised his arm. Burn him. They charged. The villagers and refugees hurried north with their burdens, their voices breaking in fear. But none turned back. They carried the food as I had commanded. Their survival depended on it. The field was mine alone. The first soldier hurled fire. I pressed my palm to the ground. Stone rose in an instant, blocking the flame. I stepped around the wall, chain snapping forward. The flail struck his chest, armor crumpling, his body collapsing with a cry. Two more came with blades. Their steel whistled in the air. My axe caught one, snapping it clean.